Hello divas and dolls, I'm Kira Couture and welcome back to my jam-packed, jerry-rigged, and jolly little review show, Very Slay, where we go over each and every main stage runway look on Drag Race Espana Season 4. World of Wonder, I think, is personally trying to send me and every other Drag Race content creator up a river, because by golly, this is now the third season this year, at least, where we are getting a ball episode out of the full cast. Love that for us. I mean, the looks are great, don't get me wrong, but like, girl. I have to say though, I wasn't originally going to review this season, but I'm glad that I decided to, because this season already, after one episode, feels more true to form with the Drag Race Espana that the world fell in love with season 1 and season 2. So if you watch season 3 or All Stars and immediately were like, I'm not doing this, I'm out for this new season, I highly recommend you give it a chance. I think the producers actually are the ones that changed between those two seasons and this one, and just the critiques, the storytelling in general for the episode, it felt more authentic to really getting to see the heart of the artist. And that's what I loved about the first two seasons compared to season 3, where it was very much like about the show. But I think it's because season 1 and season 2 were so well regarded as like some of the best Drag Race that we've ever had in the world, that I feel like season 3 started off with like a really high stakes, like high pressure situation that ended up leading into them like trying too hard to make a good TV season, and then it impacted the overall result. So I think season 4 is going to be much better, just based off this first episode, and I can't wait to see what comes out of it going ahead. For anyone who is new to Very Slay, when we go over all of these looks, if I think that a look met the brief, got the job done, we give it an okay. If I absolutely love it, we give it a slay. And if I don't like it for really any reason at all, we give it a nay. And that's all in efforts to find my weekly slay of the day, my favorite individual look out of the episode, which will go head to head against our current ranked slay of the season, which is Prashan's Meet the Queens promo look. Whichever look holds that top spot when we crown a winner at the end of the season, I'll make an illustration of it at some point. Sketches and behind the scenes looks as it comes out will be over on my Patreon with any access to any tier level. That being said, if you want to get my live reactions in the moment as I wrote them, as I watched the episode for the first time, to the Queen's entrance looks, you can do that over on Patreon as well for free, just by joining as a member. So you don't have to pay anything to interact with the community and engage in that conversation. I was going to do like my full thoughts on the episode, but the post is very long because I did go like kind of in on some of these looks. I didn't want to make it like a full novel, but if people are interested in seeing like a full write-up of the whole episode, then I can start doing those. It just might take me a bit to like really properly formulate my thoughts into prose when there's as much going on with Drag Race right now and drag TV as there is, because we now have Drag Race Philippines, we've got Global All Stars, we've got Espana now, UK starts in a couple of days as I'm recording this. Dragula season 6 starts next week, and then a couple weeks after that we get Thailand, just as Philippines is ending. There's gonna be a moment where we are doing 5 reviews a week. Help me. There's so much work involved with doing all this, managing all this, doing all the editing work. So if you want to join the Patreon, that's a great way to help support all of the content, because even though we are now a YouTube partner, I can't yet run ads to make like passive income that way. So super chats are always welcome as well, and you can leave those in the comments, and I will be forever grateful. But also, if you want your name in the credits, join the Patreon at any tier and I will throw that in there, and I can make that real quick. And while we're at it, if any coverage of any of those seasons sounds fun to you, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all of those lovely little things. It helps out so much with the algorithm, and I would appreciate it immensely, because we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. That is our next big goal, and we are already 3/4 of the way there, so that is exciting. And also, if you're a nerdy Pokemon girly or are in the market for some like artsy videos, there is some stuff coming in the pipeline that I had to kind of shelve for a little bit because of all the Drag Race stuff coming at us at once. Like I said earlier, this week is the ball episode. So for the categories for this ball, we have 3 of them. So we have 36 looks that we're going to be discussing today. The first category is dealing with the past. So a look that references their childhood, their hometown, their history, their culture, whatever the case may be, that they want to show the judges to get them introduced to their art and their story. The second category is a jump to the future, a look at where they think their drag will be in 10, 20 years time. And the third look, which they had to make in the workroom, is a concept I absolutely adore. They had to take a photo of their first time in drag and use that look as the source of inspiration to create a reinvented version of it. And we haven't really seen that sort of challenge since the first season of Canada's Drag Race. And I really wish more Drag Race seasons would do this, because I think it's a great way to really get to know like the roots of the queens. And also it is kind of funny to see like these queens who look stunning and gorgeous and glamorous on TV now, back when they look busted, because I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, everybody's first time in drag, you look like an absolute buffoon. That's just part of the process. It keeps you humble, you know? Hopefully. I will say there are some performers, now that I think about it, that I know personally who still look like their first time in drag years later. So maybe some people just don't get out of it. I don't know. Something to consider. But we've got a lot of looks to go over today, and we are going to dive into the time stream and take a look at all of them. We are going to talk about them queen by queen in the order of the runway, but I'm going to talk about all three of their looks simultaneously, just so that way we can get through all of them in detail, in proper, in full. First up, we have Mariana Stars, who I do agree with her placement this week. I think she's very deserving of being in the top. I do personally think that she is that like third place spot pretty definitively. So let's get into these looks and talk about why. Her first look, her past look, a reference to a former Miss Venezuela who I think went on to win Miss Universe, if I believe so. I do remember this look. This was the era of young Kara's life where I was very into beauty pageants, so I do remember watching Miss Universe this year, and I loved this look specifically because it echoes this John Galliano Dior collection from 2005, I believe. I think it's the fall winter collection, that Sasha Colby's finale look, that red look with the umbrella, is like a direct recreation in a different color from that collection. This is very much has that sort of energy, but very showgirly. And I adore it. It has this kind of My Fair Lady energy at the same time in terms of like the era that it embodies to me. I love the placement of everything with this. My God, this girl is a show woman. The fact that she took out that little parasol and she flung it out, and then she had all this glitter to have that full like dramatic effect. As the first runway of the season, she really like bodied. Her second look is the style I wasn't really expecting her to do. I do enjoy this sort of like futuristic, I guess it's a kind of more of a cop that she's going for, but she does feel like she's out of a sci-fi film. I really like the silver elements, especially like the kind of warped, or especially like kind of the warped plastic I think is cool. The little hip panel thing, I'm not really sure that that was necessary. Maybe just to add some color blocking and to break up all the black. But it's a cool silhouette either way. I do really like the giant earring appliques on the boots. I think that's quite fun. And it kind of brings that like showgirly drag element into this look as well. I was very here for it. And then her third look that she made in the workroom was a very pageanty costume in reference to a look from a pageant she had done before, one of her first times in drag. And I do think this look does kind of bring her whole package down a little bit, because the outfit itself is fine. I think it's better with the skirt not on, because the skirt is just like, I mean, it's lined, I appreciate that fact, but it's just like, it's kind of there. I just think it's the wrong hairstyle if you're gonna do something that's this like geometric up in the front. But overall, I'm very happy with this whole package, and I'm excited to see even more from her, because already her looks have been very, very high quality. So she's got me intrigued. I'm giving her a slay. Next up, we have Porca the Club Kid. Their look from the past, I actually really enjoyed. I love like the head wrap situation, the drape on it, how it like is just off to the side in one way. It's really cool. The whole thing, I've been saying this a lot lately, but this reads very editorial to me. I love how vintage it is. I love the working in of the like cultural dance from her hometown and how she performed through the look on the runway because of it, carrying that whole energy through. This does really have like a 1980s drag sensibility to it that I enjoy. It's kind of Boy Georgie a little bit to me, which is a vibe I can get behind. As long as, you know, she's not like NB-phobic like Boy George is, you know. But this I was really impressed with. I love the shape and silhouette of this, the exaggerated shoulders, actually I really like the cut of the skirt, like how kind of weirdly long it is just past the knee. Normally I would have a problem with that proportion, but with this aesthetic it works because that's kind of the style of skirt that was in at that time. So it feels very era accurate. The futuristic look is my favorite one of the three. This sort of motomami biker streetwear moment, but it's still fashiony and elevated, is really cool. The only problem I have with this is that I do wish that the pants went into like a full leg cover and had been a little more fitted through the calves, because it is a little bulky, and I think that's just due to the fabric type. It looks almost like an upholstery fabric that she uses as the base, which honestly would be really impressive because upholstery fabric is not easy to work with. So whoever made this, I think, made a very well executed garment. I think the paneling is done really, really well here. This is another really successful look for me. The look she made, like Mariana's, I think is the weakest of the three. However, I think this does really a good job at recreating the photo and recreating the style that she came from and the era that her drag was born in. This, again, it feels very in line with everything that she's presented stylistically. It has that sense of like retro that I am a big, big fan of. I normally wouldn't like the texture of the pants with the print of this top, but I don't mind it. And I think the little like purse that she made that's a mini version of her is really darling. So for me, this was another really successful package. She was placed safe this week, but I think it's a high safe. This is a slay. Our third queen on the runway today is Chloe Fitu, who I think her first look is one of the most gorgeous things we've seen this episode. This was such a departure from the vibe she set with her entrance look that I was kind of gagged. This is so gorgeous, so good. The way that the shoulder draped fabric moves is stunning on the runway. And I love the point of reference of like coming out of the closet because of like Narnia and coming out of the wardrobe. I thought doing this sort of white witch thing was a smart choice. I will say, I don't think that the wolf cover-up thingy was necessary. I think it cheapened the whole look. But this look is absolutely gorgeous. Her second look with all of the individual breasts across the dress itself, it's whatever. It's not that exciting of a silhouette. I'm a bit torn on queens who make their personality tits, because oftentimes it feels weird when, I think it just depends on how the queen acts when they're wearing a large breastplate or when they're wearing a lot of tits like this. This look I don't mind as much because it is more artistic, but her entrance look I had a bit of an issue with because I don't know. It just feels weird to me when you have queer folks and oftentimes gay men who do drag, who make having giant tits their queen's personality, but then if you put like a vagina near them, they're like, oh no, gold star gay, you get that away from me. No, girl bodies are gross. And it's like, but then you want to like give yourself all these feminine body traits and then make like a fool of yourself, like fondling yourself. So it's a weird choice to me. The biggest detriment to this look is the hair. I don't like the hair at all. The eyeglasses that she had that were also tits though, those were kind of fun. They were just a little bit goofy to me. And the look that she made, I think, is absolutely stunning. I know the look that she had was very club girl, like in the moment partying. And this has this like streetwear energy that I really, really enjoy. I love all the grommet work. I love the boot covers. The boot covers are so cool. And just the whole energy of this, the different denim washes. If you watch my Drag Race Espana All-Stars reviews, when Onyx did her reunion look with different grades of denim washes, I found that very successful. I would say this is not on par with that look, but it is still pretty good. So I'm gonna give her whole package a slay, even though I did kind of side-eye a little bit at that second look. Next up, we have Shie Lanta, who unfortunately we did have to say goodbye to in this episode. And I don't know. For me, it was, I see why she's in the bottom. I think it does come down to that third look when we get into it. But her first look is really well done, and she performed it beautifully. I think the biggest detriment to it is that it is just literally a flamenco dress. It's not really dragged up in any way, and it's not really put into her aesthetic and her vision and like what Shani's world is that she lives in for drag. But I see very right off the top here that she has that sort of deep-rooted culture in her veins. I love these kind of like folklorica queens a lot. So I was really excited to see that she was going to be doing stuff like that this season. But I do agree with the critiques that like there just wasn't enough styling here to make it individual. Her angel look, I think it was also really pretty. I like how she performed it. I wasn't crazy about the hair. And I think the wings, we saw the sort of wing thing with Samantha Ballantyne's and All Stars with the arms and the wings. I think it worked better for her because it was an illusion piece. I think the wings moved really well, but unfortunately, because you don't have any arms, she's got kind of a wyvern situation going on, you know? Like where it's the dragon, but it doesn't have front arms, it just has wings. It's giving that. I just think it could have been done a little more successfully. And I think the drape on the skirt is not particularly that great. I think it is maybe a little long. She probably could have gotten away with getting rid of an inch or two just so it kisses the ground just evenly. I think just having this plain white dress that's not embellished in any way, it really gets washed out on the runway. So it's not awful, but I just wish there was more to it. And I think that's kind of the same thing as the first look. There's just not enough that really makes it stand out as something that is truly within her aesthetic. And then for the look she made, I actually really liked the sleeves, but the cut of the skirt isn't all that flattering. I think had she done something a little different with the skirt, honestly, had she even put like the black tulle or the ruffle lining underneath the skirt a little longer, like how she has it on the sleeves, just to keep it pretty visually consistent, I think that would have worked. And that would have just given the skirt a little more shape, a little more structure, and it would have kept the black in the look all the way through, and it wouldn't just stop. I do think that the idea of like keeping the tacky bra that's visible through the lace in her original look as like a point of reference in this is fun. I do kind of prefer the look in the original photo to this though, which is unfortunate. But for me, her package overall, I would say is okay. Then we have Miss Cristo, and Miss Cristo did something that I think is fascinating, how much it happened in this episode. In previous ball challenges, I've talked about how my favorite thing is when the queens have like a storyline through all three looks, or at least a consistent motif. And Miss Cristo has both of those things. She had this ballet storyline because of her being a classically trained ballet dancer. I loved how uptight, rigid, and uncomfortable her past look is. The shoes would be so much of a pain to walk in. The fact that the laces go up into the tights, like up the calf, is a really smart little detail that I think really shows how like tight wound you have to be a strict classically trained ballet dancer. The level of discipline you have to have is ridiculous. And I also love the scale of this because it does give the exaggeration of a huge tutu on like a small child. I'm very happy with this. It's successful. The hair is my favorite part of this. Like I love the tulle that kind of goes through it and creates this kind of mohawk shape. It works. Her future look, I think, is one of the more interesting ones out of the whole cast. I love the hair. I love the mask. I love this sort of like neck corset turtleneck cover thingy. It's a cool shape. And the fabric choice, it looks like distressed denim in parts, which is kind of cool. It's got some streetwear to it. This is another look that I think is incredibly editorial. But my favorite thing about this look is the shoes. I think the shoes consistently for Miss Cristo in this set of looks, they're the real stars because it allows her to really tell the story that she's going for. I think having the walker is an effective choice. I do think the skirt could have been maybe a little shorter, just above the knee in the front, and really have that full high-low dramatic silhouette, and it would have allowed her to have just a little more range of movement on the runway. and really exaggerate the placement of her legs to really show off these extreme shoes. And as for the look that she made, this recreation of a sort of a black swan moment, I think is really gorgeous. It has this sort of like punk underground energy that I'm very here for. And I think what she did with the shoe treatment here is so genius because it's just a great styling choice. It's simply a black pump for the shoe, but her tying the ribbon up the legs really does evoke a ballet dancer on top of this big skirt silhouette and the dancer bun. Like, it's great styling across everything. And I think it's so clear that she has this very artistic and intentional sense of styling that is very rooted in a knowledge of fashion. So I can't wait to see more from her. This package is 1000% a slay, and I think her win is very valid. Next up, we have Migy J-Lo, and I have to say, I again love the magic through line through these looks. I thought the first look was cute. I thought it was well detailed, well embellished, but I don't really care for this hair on her. I do think, however, her hair is more successful with this look at this level of like cut, this like bob that's right above the shoulder. I think this works better than her hair for the third look with the bang. The bang really masculinizes her face in a way that I'm not a fan of. But this first look, it's cute. It's giving like children's show magician, and I can be here for that. The second look is the real showstopper moment for me out of her package, obviously. The height of this look is so grand. It's very Gran Canaria, in all honesty, and the illusion's great. I love how seamless of an illusion the arms are. They work and they look real. She pulls out the wings and starts moving them. It's very visually arresting. It's one of the most memorable looks out of this episode, in my opinion. But my biggest thing is, because this look is so much of like a reference to past costume and historical costume, I don't really see how it makes sense for the future, you know? Besides, she's gonna be a very, very tall woman with huge wings. But I think that kind of also brought about the glaring issue with her whole package was that I don't really feel like we got a good sense of who she is as an artist. Her third look, I think the concept is interesting. However, it's the fit that I really have an issue with. She's really made herself incredibly broad with these shoulder pads. And the way the blazer is made, she hasn't allowed for like any way to cinch it and to really tighten it in at the waist with this peplum. So it really makes her look boxy through the torso. And then the skirt, I think, is a little bit too long. Had she made it just a mid-thigh, or had it been like just slightly above the knee and not at the knee, I think that would have overall been a much more flattering cut for her. But because that second look is still so good, I will give her whole package just a soft slay. Then we have La Niña de Dantro, and her biggest strength, I think, through her package is her ability to tell a story visually. And her looks having this through line of different stages of her life with this very La Veneno kind of communion storyline where she's upset and unhappy and crying because she's having to conform to a male standard and this menswear like drag king look. Fierce. I fucking love it. It's one of my favorite looks out of this first category by a long shot. And the way she performed it, it's very compelling and it's very moving, and she's a great performer. So I can't wait to see her other runways this season. As much as I think she should have been in the bottom for her third look, I think had the reveals been a little more clean and the third look hadn't been so messy looking, you could have gotten away with her being bottom 3 and not in the bottom 2. The second look, the corset post reveal that is like this sort of coat situation over all the latex and the fetish wear and the trans color palette, I really love. However, I do think she should have just kept the hat and the veil on because that bride look was so interesting. And I think had she kept that storyline of she's starting off as this, you know, child forced to conform to, you know, the gender she was assigned at birth for religious purposes, then going into the evolution of that same little boy growing up to become this beautiful woman who is getting married. I think that alone is a really powerful story. I say this as somebody who, you know, was a very religious little boy at one point, who hopefully one day will be a beautiful bride walking down the aisle to her very, very handsome and sweet husband. But this is, I think the storytelling here is good, but I think the second look almost wasn't necessary underneath the bridal outfit. So I think that was just a sense of maybe like her youth kind of getting ahead of her, because she is pretty young. She's only like 22. If you throw somebody young on TV, like, this is the biggest stage and biggest opportunity she's probably gonna get in her lifetime. And it's understandable to try to make a huge impression at the first outset. And I just think that the reveals could have been cleaner if she was going to do them. Her third look is visually a bit of a mess, but I love the makeup and I love this hair. I love this hair so, so much. I do think that the look is arguably, of the looks that everybody made, one of the worst ones this week. It's the reveal I also thought was unnecessary, but I thought it was another very powerful, moving story. And Supreme's critiques for her was the perfect encapsulation of what I was wanting out of this season, where she says that the thing that sucks about being a judge is seeing people be so open and vulnerable on the runway, telling the judges their stories, and they have to critique their skills on making a dress. So I think that's the unfortunate thing with this challenge. Like, it is a game, it is a competition, there are judging criteria in play. This fell short, but she's a very compelling artist, and I cannot wait to see what she's got in store for us in the future. This overall, though, I would say is okay, I think, when you balance everything out. Then we have up next Prashan, our slay of the day from the promo. This, to me, package-wise, was personally my winner, because the looks all have that 1930s vintage flair that's very much of the world that her character and her drag lives in. Everything was so well detailed and so clean. This witch look that's a reference to the first costume her mother ever made for her for Halloween, absolutely stunning. It has this sort of cabaret showgirl feel to it that is very on brand. And I love the tassel at the end of the boa on each end. I love how that echoes the tassels on the skirt and on the tits. This is phenomenal. The ruching in the corset, the drape of everything, very big fan of this. And I love a sheared ruched glove. Friends of the channel will know I love a sheer ruched glove like this. I own like 7 pairs of these. I was excited to see that. For her future look, even though I think it is a very vintage retro look, it feels very much like what people in the 30s thought the future was going to be like. It has that sort of retro futurism thing going for it that I absolutely love. And again, it's another really successful look that I think is incredibly gorgeous. I love the silver peacock feathers in this headpiece. I love just the star motif throughout the whole piece. This is like money, money, money. And the makeup is gorgeous. Absolutely stunning. And then when we get into the look that she made, I think of the looks that were made, this is the best one by a country mile, because there's so much intentional work here with the drape of the skirt, all of the fringe work, the bow in the back, even the treatment of the veil and how that's placed and draped. Like, that's not easy to do and to make it look as good as it does. Like, she's my winner. I'm gonna call it now. I think she's gonna make it to the end, and she's my pick to win the whole thing. So I hope she gets some wins, and I hope the rest of her runways are just as good, if not better, than what she started off with, because my golly, this was a phenomenal episode for her. This is hands down a slay. Then we have Angelita La Perversa. Honestly, I didn't like any of these really at all. The first look, I think, is the most successful of the 3, but I think the look was better with the coat. I think she didn't need to take it off to reveal the bikini. I know it's a film reference, like her entrance look was a film reference. I do appreciate that she's like a pop culture reference heavy queen, but this first look, I'm just not that big of a fan of. I think it's just a level of taste differences that I just did not prefer this. The second look, the proportions are a little wonky to me. I think the leg cover piece would have been more successful had it been over a boot, or had it been a full leg cover having it cut off at the ankle where it does, just having like a foot, not a fan. And I think, is it the same shoe? It is. And she has the same shoe in all 3 looks, which I think does her ultimate package a disservice. Now, her second look as well, I'm not a big fan of the corset piece. I think it is a little ill-fitting. It doesn't really give her much shape. It also looks really fucking boxy, and it's not flattering. And this hairstyle I also just am not a fan of on her. The third look, her Pretty Woman moment, no. I get the reference, but no. I don't like the drape on this. I don't like the cut on this. It does nothing for me. Like, it just is, it's there. I realistically thought she should have been in the bottom 2 because while Shani's looks weren't incredible, she performed them all very well. I thought Lenina Dantro performed her storyline very well and had a much more compelling storyline over everything else. I think Angelita's biggest thing is that like her look was finished and looked finished, even though it looked cheap and just kind of ugly in my opinion. So for me, this package overall is a nay. Next up we have Le Coco, and I think that Le Coco's biggest thing was that her storyline was incredibly powerful, but it doesn't make sense if it's not being explained to you. So the electrical wiring in this look from the past is about the time that on Christmas her father came to their house and cut the power line so they wouldn't have power for Christmas and they'd all be sad. And then she like never saw her father again after that, which is an awful story, awful thing to do to your kids. But I do think that the overall package here is just kind of a little too simple, and the story isn't really all that readable through this. I wish the skirt was floor length. I hate where it cuts off at the ankle. The second look here, I think is the most successful of the 3, her future look, where it's about her dreams of having the light that her dad took back, and now she has her own cabaret. I think this is great. This is absolutely stunning and gorgeous. I love all the gem work in this. The tights are so cool, but I hate that, again, that it stops at the ankle. And I don't really know how I feel about an orange shoe with this. I know it's to like pull the color of the hair into the rest of the look, but I think had she just done like a nude pump, it would have been more successful, and then she could have had like a big green applique on the shoe just to like really tie the gem work in all the way down. But this second look is great. I love the headpiece. I know she had to like kind of hold it up the whole time she walked the runway, but it looks heavy. I mean, the headpiece alone is about as tall as she is. And then the look that she made, I think the burnt tights and the burnt underskirt, that's cool. The whole thing has a very Cyndi Lauper energy to it, but I wish that either the head wrap had been a little tighter and there'd been more of like a sculpt to the hair, or that the hair had been all thrown to one side if you're really gonna go hardcore on this 80s thing. It's like a good look that fits the vibe of what she was doing in the original look really, really well, but it's also not as striking as some of the other ones on the runway, and I think it is one of the weaker looks of the ones that were made in the competition. But she's another one I'm gonna give a soft slay, her overall package. I'm excited to see more from her. Then we have Kelly Pasa, and her first look, she's carrying this sign that I believe says something along the lines of like, that she's never gonna grow up. And I think that having all these toys and all the Barbies and the plush things all throughout the look, it's also made of her like childhood bedspread. I think that's very fun. It has a lot of whimsy to it. I think the styling on it is a little clunky. I do think the oversized jeans really fits like the childhood style of this. It is a very 80s style of look. She does really look like a cartoon character, and this is also very Club Kid energy to me. Not just the makeup, but like just the overall styling of the whole thing. And then she turns around and it's like a soccer field and she got hit with a ball. And it's sort of a story moment where from the front, she's committed to never growing up and staying whimsical and carefree and happy. And then you turn around and then you're being like hit from behind, being bullied. The toys are being ripped up and are destroyed. It's sort of this interesting story moment where from the front, she has this facade of being this happy, lucky child. But then when she turns around, you see that there's something behind all that, that there's some hurt and pain in her life that has maybe made her break the veneer a little bit. Her second look, this was one of my favorites of the whole category. This theater look, the storytelling here, So, so cool. And the fact that the curtain lifted to reveal all of these eyes watching her in the audience. And then she turns around and again, she has that storyline of what you see up front isn't what's really there underneath when you see the backside of it. And then she turns around and there's only one eye to symbolize like the loneliness of fame. She's fascinating to me. I love her so much. And I love that we got to see her do like a normal skin tone paint so we can see that she's capable of doing that. And it's not always gonna be like the white artsy face. So, very successful look, absolutely. I will say the only thing I just wasn't crazy about was that the skirt needed a steam. The skirt was a little wrinkly. Her third look, I love the fact that she had the original top from that look that she could work with for this. And then she had this like blue leopard print mohawk to echo the leopard print of the top. I love a long fingered glove, y'all know that. And I think the overall silhouette here is really cool. The skirt structure she created is really fascinating, especially when you see like the shot of it from the side on the official Drag Race Espana Instagram. It's a really cool silhouette. I love the huge braid and I love the open ass in the back. Really, really solid opening week for her. I cannot wait to see more things from her going ahead. This is a slay. I would argue if you could put another person in the top, it should have been Kelly. And finally, we have Dita Dubois, whose first look, the bodysuit, giving me a little bit Felicia from Darkstalkers vibe, was here for that. And she's got this cat storyline. Now, when she turns around with this first look, it's revealed like the cat is frozen because as a child, she stuck her cat in the freezer. Why you would admit this on television to a global audience, I will never know. She's a bit weird for that. Granted, she's 4 when she did it, but still, that's some weird ass behavior. I like parts of this outfit, but I just think that the overall silhouette and some of the placement of the paneling isn't the most flattering. But I love the scale of it. It does feel very Gran Canaria in a way that is more akin to like Michael Maruli from UK5 versus the Gran Canaria we've come to think of with like the Carnival Gran Canaria queens. Her second look, she's just this crazy cat lady in the future. Her head is full of yarn, very Carmen Miranda-y. The textile being a bunch of like cat food packaging is really interesting. I think it actually works pretty well, but at the same time, I do find it a little visually clunky. I think you lose some of the balls of yarn that are on the actual dress. I didn't even notice them because the print is so visually busy. And then her third look. I don't like her third look. The ears are too close together, and I think there's just not enough shape to the skirt for this to be super flattering. I get what she's going for with this look. I get the reference of everything. I think her drinking out of a baby bottle, kind of also odd behavior, but it was fine. I just didn't really care for it that much. I found her package to be one of the worst ones this week. I think she was definitely safe because of those first couple of looks, but she was definitely at the low end of safe for me. It's okay. And with that, we have finally gotten through each and every one of these looks, and it's time now to pick our slate of the day, my favorite look out of this episode. Now, when we have the ball episodes, I like to pick my favorite from each category. I would say my favorite look for category 1 would have to go to Mariana Stars. My favorite look for category 2 would have to go to Miss Cristo. And my favorite look for category 3 would have to go to Vampirasian. But I think my slate of the day overall is going to go to Vampirasian. I loved this look so much. I think her whole package was phenomenal. And I think that her look that she made is miles ahead of everyone else in this competition. For a queen who's only been doing drag for 3 years, they're gonna have to keep an eye on her because she's gonna be a real force to be reckoned with in this competition, I can already tell. So now it's time to put her promo look head to head up against her look from episode 1. And I do think her promo look is going to hold out for another week. I do think her promo look is just a smidge stronger than the look that she made this week. So that promo look is going to hold that top spot and advance another week forward, holding that slate of the season title. That's gonna be it for me today, y'all. Again, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But before we go today, be sure to go out there, y'all. Stay kind, stay queer, and make sure that your day is very slay.